What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Justified City Primeval Episode 5. You good? And it's kind of funny just because as I'm watching this, I don't like to look up the ratings beforehand, only because I don't want my opinion to be tainted by ratings that could be inaccurate, because I've definitely seen my fair share watching the CW is definitely a good example of it, where you get an episode that's rated like 8.0 or higher, and I'm watching it going, this crap, or ones that are rated, like 6.5, and I'm thinking, this masterpiece. So yeah, I don't like to look up ratings. This was an instance where I did happen to see beforehand, mainly because whenever they introduced Dickie into it, I was like, wait a minute, is that David Cross? Because I don't really know what he looks like these days. I've not seen him in anything for a little while now. So I wasn't really sure if it was or not. So I looked it up. Sure enough, it's him. But in looking up that information, I did happen to catch and see that this is the lowest rated episode for the season. So I'm watching, and I'm like, okay, don't let that affect my opinion. Don't let that affect my opinion. I don't want to assume this is just going to be bad just because it's rated the lowest. But then after I watch basically almost to the end, I was like, yeah, I kind of feel the same way. And a lot of it comes down to, first of all, Jamal. I think his whole storyline, it's unnecessary. I know the reason they're bringing him into all of this is because they want Carolyn to go through just absolutely the worst possible day. She loses out on the judge bench seemingly because she's not, rubbing the right elbows and stuff. Then all of a sudden, she and Raylan seem to be hitting it off, and then Jamal steps in and basically starts a dick measuring contest between the two of them, and that pisses her off. And then she goes to Jamal's place, seemingly just to, let him know that she paid the lien, but it kind of seemed like she was maybe seeing if he was changed, maybe there was something still there, and then she sees that he's got women's stuff all over his apartment. And so that just kind of pushes her further down the rabbit hole. So I get why he's there. He's there to add that sort of extra frustration. It's just not that interesting. Because first of all, he's just he's one of those douchebags that's cocky and confident with no real basis. Like when he steps in and he's just like, yeah, we're in love. She's like, we were in love. He's like, no, this is just a little bump in the road. Like, dude, shut up. I don't know why, whenever they introduce characters like this that talk in this way, because there have been several in my history of playing video games, watching movies, watching TV shows, there have been those guys. They're just like, no, you really love me. I know you really love me. You say you don't, but I know you really do. And 70% of the time, that turns out to be true. I mean, hell, just watch I think the 8th or 7th season of The Flash. I don't remember which one. And they introduced the Mark guy. That's all, oh no, Killer Frost, you love me. I know you do. This is just a little flirting between the two of us. And sure enough, by the end of it all, she's looking at him. She's like, maybe I really do like him. Yeah, because all he did was say, yeah, you love me, over and over again. Most of the time in real life, girls would be like, no? Creepy asshole, get away from me. But because it's fantasy land where everything suddenly, Carolyn goes over to see him. And again, she says she goes over because she wanted to let him know that she paid the lien, and that was going to be it. But I'm sorry, the way you walked around his apartment, the way you kind of, looked at him and stuff, the little smile you gave him, you sat down when he came over and started kissing your neck, you didn't instantly, like, no, get away from me. You were like, oh, okay, maybe. And then you saw the person, and that's when you turned it. Like, no, this was he came in acting all cocky, stood up against Raylan, and in Fantasyland, that makes girls go, oh, he stood up for me. Oh my gosh, well, maybe I should go see him. And it pisses me off every single time. So that whole storyline was just so dumb to me. On top of that, I just talked about in the last review, Carolyn, this kind of makes her seem like less of a character to me. Like, yeah, you could say, well, they pushed her down, she's been under people's heel for so long, doing what she's been told, so now she wants to take something for herself. And granted, there is still the thought in my mind, and I really hope they do this, because if they don't, then yeah, Carolyn's a shit character that they've written. If they do this, though, it would redeem her in my mind. It's not so much she's looking at the Black Book because she wants to draw outside the lines to get what she wants and get that judge thing. It's more so she's finally taking control back of her life. So she's looking at that little Black Book so that way she can give the information to Raylan so Raylan can take down Clement. That is my hope, because they're seemingly playing it up like, no, guys, this is it. Like she wants to finally just give in to the dark side and give in to the whole like playing outside of the system to get what you want thing. That's what they're playing it as. So I'm hoping it's a no. This is not a she's taking what she wants for herself. She's taking back her life from Clement, and she's gonna help Raylan take him down. Like I hope that's where we're going with it. Because again, if we're not, then you've essentially written this character who has been so by the book to the point of almost a little bit in the fault. The way that she handles her clients, the way she handles a psychopath like Clement, constantly defending him, basically to the point of death. Like that's the type of by the book stuff where you're kind of like, okay, I get what you're doing, I understand, but there's a line you have to draw at some point. And when you see a guy like him and you know just how awful he is, maybe that's the point where you step back and go, you know what, I'm done defending you. I'm not going to defend you anymore. You can get some crap defense attorney that will do a terrible job and essentially make sure you spend the rest of your life in prison. That's kind of how they've written her, is by the book to a fault. So to have her make a decision where she's like, you know what, no, I want to draw outside the lines now to get my own way, that for me is, no, that's not okay. That makes her a hypocrite. It makes her less of a character. And again, as much crap as she's given Raylan for all of his stuff, if she does this, now all of a sudden I absolutely despise her. But if she's doing it to help Raylan, again, then it's still her drawing outside the lines, kind of, but it's doing it basically to help people. Not just herself. She will be helping herself getting out from under Clement, but she also wants to help Sweetie. She wants to help all these people that their lives are constantly being ruined by Clement. So we'll see what they're doing with it, but that whole thing with her, Jamal, Raylan, that interaction, it was a little rough to get through. So anyways, all that being said, not necessarily nothing in this episode that I enjoyed. First of all, it was interesting seeing Clement and Sweetie kind of start their plan, put their plan into motion about blackmailing these people. Sweetie may be a little too naive to think that Clement wouldn't go back after he sees how rich this guy is. Maybe a little naive on his part, but I do think that in his mind, he's got control of the situation. He thinks that he's about to take Clement down, but ultimately we know Clement's going to be too smart for Sweetie to figure it out and be able to turn him over. So I do think he's being a little naive here, but I think that's kind of the point, is he feels like he's in control since he's got the gun. He knows all this information. He's ready to take him down. He just wants to get what's his first. So maybe a little bit of a flaw, but I think it's a flaw it's on purpose, because we're going to see at some point he's going to have that moment where he thinks he's still in control, and then he finds out, oh wait, shit, I'm not. And as far as everything to do with Raylan, we see him and Wendell going around, trying to find the arresting officer for Clement. Also, kind of a weird moment early on, because Raylan gets back after, spending the night with Carolyn. He gets back to the precinct, and they're having this meeting, and the main guy says that Officer Brill is on ice. Now, granted, on ice doesn't necessarily mean dead, but when I hear somebody say on ice, I think dead. I think he's cold and dead. So when they said that, I'm like, wait, did he die in between episodes? Did the Albanians kill him in between episodes for killing one of their own? Like, is that where we're going with this? You just kill him off screen? And did you tell us about it at the beginning of the next... What? But no, I looked it up, and apparently I didn't read his whole thing, his whole bio, because obviously I didn't want spoilers, but I at least got to the part in this episode, and it said that they essentially, put him on. It's something that they typically do in real life, where when a cop shoots somebody, they get like a day or so or a week to take some time off. So I guess on ice for this guy means that he's chilling. He's taking a chill pill. It just really threw me off though when he said that. I'm like, they didn't just kill him off. And not that Officer Brill is one of my favorite people. He's almost like if Raylan kind of gave in to his dark side a little bit. That's what Officer Brill is for me. So it's kind of funny to see that sort of counterpoint, but I would really hate it if they just absolutely got rid of him like that. But no, getting to see the guy that arrested Clement at the beginning of it all, hearing his little story, it is kind of interesting. And I do wonder what they're going to do with Raylan from here, because obviously he's had this moment. He's had these thoughts of, I don't know if he has a gun. Maybe it's better if I just take him out. Like, been doing a dance. I mean, you think about him and Boyd in the original show. They did a dance for so long. And it felt like, there was that feeling between him and Boyd and Raylan where you knew Boyd was just pushing Raylan's buttons because he wanted to see, are you willing to shoot me? Are you willing to take me out? For no reason other than just because. Like, there were several moments of that. And I really liked that dichotomy. So seeing essentially that moment presented itself for this Raymond guy, where he had somebody that they were going back and forth for so long, he couldn't get anything to stick on him, couldn't get anything to stick. And then finally there's just that, he shows up at his house, he goes to reach for something under the bar, and he's just like, you know what, I'm done. And just shoots him. And he even admits, like, yeah, I don't know if he was going for a gun or not. I had no idea. Probably not. But I didn't care. It's interesting to see almost, again, where Brill has shown what if Raylan just decided to be a dirty cop and just decided, hey, screw it, I don't care. I'm just going to go and do whatever I want. And they're gonna be okay with it because I'm a cop. It's what I do. Now we're seeing essentially what if Raylan had taken the shot at the end of Justified. At the end of all of it, what if he had taken that shot on Boyd? What would his life become? I kind of feel like it's an interesting moment. I don't know how they're going to deal with it. I don't know if Raylan is going to maybe think about what could have been. I don't know. It's an interesting dilemma that they've brought up, and I feel like I hope they expound upon it a bit more than just this one scene. But who knows? It's might just be a little throwaway scene where Raylan essentially sees this cop and realizes, well, crap, he can't help me because he's also kind of dirty. But it brought up that thought in my mind of like, this is what could have been for Raylan. And I feel like even naming the guy Raymond is almost a little too on the nose, because you're like, it's Raylan, but with an M for murder. That just popped into my head. That's so stupid. But yeah, I mean, it's a good story, and I hope they do talk about it a bit more. So with all that being said, though, on to the next episode. I'll see you guys there. And now episode 6, Adios. And we say adios to Sweetie. Because it kind of felt like this, with 2 episodes left, it feels like things should start kicking off here soon. So not too surprised to see that they have a major death at the end of this one, but a little surprised to see it was Sweetie. I honestly thought if anyone was going to go, it was going to be maybe one of the cops that Raylan's been working for, or maybe even Carolyn. But that being said, I guess I should see that in the final episode it has Carolyn's name in the description of it, so I guess I should have pieced that together and realized it wasn't going to be her. I don't know. I thought she'd at least get shot, maybe. But, yeah, I mean, overall, pretty solid episode. You got Raylan planning to take Clement down. Clement somehow gets out from under it. Meanwhile, Sweetie working with this guy, Lonnie, trying to get the painting back, but basically Sweetie's like, just kill this guy. And yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good setup. It's fun to see all these different moving pieces and how they kind of conflict with each other and how they don't. Some of the pieces mess up the others, and yet somehow Clement comes out on top of it all. And I do like the fact that we're starting to get this sense that yeah, maybe there's something else going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. Because Raylan has mentioned this before, how it feels like there's something else going on. Like this guy, he's a little too lucky, and I'm kind of glad that we're feeling that. I still think how this whole thing kicked off with him just happening to get pissed at the judge and shoot and kill him, and that's how he gets the little black book. I do kind of feel like that still is pretty lucky on his part, that the guy he happened to get pissed off and kill also happened to have all of this information that he can use. But I do wonder if we're going to figure out that somebody has been working with Clement this whole time. You know, there is something else we don't know about yet that basically gives him this power, this control that he has over people. Because that whole scene where he ends up getting off scot-free, even though he basically threatened that prosecutor, doesn't have a weapon, doesn't have the page on him. Is it just because he's that lucky where he's like, no, I'm not bringing the page. Like, I'm gonna threaten her with violence. She's gonna give me the money. That's it. I don't need the page. I don't need the weapon. I don't need anything to get the money from her. Is it just that, or did somebody tip him off? And if somebody did, it'll be interesting to see who it is, because it feels like I'm assuming it's going to be one of the three cops that Raylan has met, if they decide to go this path of somebody's tipping Clement off, and that's why he's always one step ahead. I'm assuming it's going to be one of the three cops that Raylan's working with, and if it is, I don't know who it's going to be, because on the one hand, I don't think it would be Maureen, just because that, unless there's maybe a family connection there that we don't know about, I don't see her as being somebody that would want to work, especially considering she seems to really want to bring Clement down. So that would leave it between Wendell and Brill. Wendell, for me, feels like he's kind of a red herring, because we've seen a couple scenes of him when they were in the judge's house. There was like a little look he gave when the judge was threatening, like, I got information about all of you. There's a little look he gave the judge at that point. So I feel like they're kind of setting it up, and even Raylan basically gives him this information, and he's like, nah, you're just overthinking it. So it kind of feels like they're setting him up that maybe he's the one tipping Clement off, which makes me suspect him less. Because if the show is trying to make me think it might be him, then I'm thinking it's not him. So that would leave Brill. And I do feel like that would be kind of a bit of a shock, considering he's such a hard ass and somebody who's really just not wanting to interact with criminals at all. So it would be surprising if we find out that he's actually the one that is working with Clement. But with that being said, because he is one that seems to be willing to shoot whoever, even if they don't have a weapon on him, and I could see him being a dirty cop that plants evidence to put criminals away, there's a good chance that he might be in the judge's book. And if he is, then that might be the reason why he is working with Clement right now, because he doesn't want his name exposed as the dirty cop that it is. So that's kind of where my mind is leaning at the moment. They could still pull the rug out from under me. If it does end up being Wendell, I feel like that's just too obvious, so I won't like that twist. If it turns out to be Maureen, though, and there's another reason that we don't even consider at this point, like maybe she's been helping him all along, even before the Black Book was stolen, that would be kind of a surprising twist. As long as their reasoning is good, I think I would like that. Because it means that I was totally fooled by the way the show is being written. So, but yeah, I mean, overall, everything else, pretty solid. Seeing Sweetie and Lonnie's scenes, I thought that was really well set up. You know, showing, first of all, Lonnie, he's no pushover. You know, even though they do just sort of kill him off pretty simply at the end of it all. I do kind of wish there maybe had been a little bit more back and forth between Lonnie and Clement. I think that would have been a fun little bad guy rivalry for maybe an episode or two, but obviously since they've got only 8 episodes, they don't really have a whole lot of time to expand upon that. But I feel like that would have been fun. He was a pretty fun character to have around for an episode. But his whole conversation with Sweetie, it just really shows how Sweetie's ready to be done with all of this. And unfortunately, in pushing through all of this, trying to get himself out by doing these underhanded tactics. It ends up leading to that final moment where he ends up dying. So it just kind of goes to show that underhanded tactics, the lying, the cheating that Sweetie was trying to do, it's not the way to do it, because this is what it ends up leading to. So yeah, I mean, it's a good episode. It's a good setup for the final two episodes as well. I do wonder if I don't remember the name of. They said the guy was with Sweetie, so, and I didn't even really think much of it, but in the last episode there was that moment where Dickie said something to Sweetie about, like, you never had a woman do something. I don't even remember what he said, but he looked at Sweetie and Sweetie's like, no, I don't. And he started to say something else. He's like, you're telling me you never had a woman? Oh, it just was a very odd moment, but I guess that was kind of implying that, oh, Sweetie's gay. And then this guy with the mustache, which, I mean, he was already acting very feminine, so I assumed he was. But I guess they were a couple, because he said they were together for 7 years. I never really got that throughout this series so far, but I guess that's what was going on. I do wonder if that's going to end up being sort of... I don't know if he'll have anything to do with how Clement ends up being taken down, just because it does feel like sort of something that I've seen before, where you've got Raylan trying to take this guy down, but then this guy comes out of nowhere because of what Clement did to Sweetie, and essentially just shoots him. Even though the cops are trying to get him on the correct path, it's like, nope, we're just going to end it in another way. I don't know if I'd like that as much, but it kind of feels like maybe that's what they're setting up for, because of how much this guy was featured in this episode and had a lot of moments where it felt like he was really ready for Sweetie to be done with Clement. I could see them trying to do something like that, where he kept trying to warn Sweetie, it didn't work, Clement kills him, and so now he's set for revenge. So we'll see if that's what they end up deciding to do with it or not. But all in all, I think that's about it for this episode. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how the season's going to come to an end. I will say it's a little weird that we have not heard anything else about the Albanians and what they're doing, especially after Brill killed one of their own. I kind of figured they would start to take a little bit more of a focus for this season, whatever you want to call it. But they've sort of disappeared. And now all of a sudden it's Dickie, and he's hiring a guy to get the painting back and all of that. And that's kind of been the focus while Raylan is trying to take down Clement. So, I don't know. It's a little weird, but maybe it's all building up to an epic climax where the Albanians come back, but then Dickie hires somebody else to go after Clement, and it just all is one big, shit show. But, yeah, I'm excited. So, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these two episodes? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Justified City Primeval reviews. I'll see you guys at the final review. Peace out.